Welcome back to another big Iowa Tesla Guy road trip video, and this time we are doing something a little different. We are doing a spring break road trip, 3,000 miles, starting in Iowa, going all the way down to the Gulf Coast of Alabama. Then we're going to be taking the Panhandle all the way around to the Tampa area, shoot up to Orlando, then to Atlanta, and then all the way back home to Iowa, a full 3,000 miles. The car is charging up. We are at 98%. We are getting everything ready to go. It is Friday, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we hope to make it as far as St. Louis by dinner time or a late dinner. Shouldn't be a problem, but let's check out the route. It's going to get us on this first major leg and probably this first video from here all the way down to Gulf Shores, Alabama. So here we are up here in the Cedar Rapids, Iowa area, and we're going to be making our way all the way down south. And a lot of this is a new journey for us, but some of it is repeat. We're going to make it as far as St. Charles, the St. Louis area tonight. Then we're going to have a very long day tomorrow, Saturday, going from St. Louis all the way down to Alabama, which looks like right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 charging stops from here to Alabama. It's about 1,200 miles, I think. Right now it's a little cool in Iowa. Hopefully it'll get a lot warmer the further south we go, but we're looking forward to this trip. So come along for the ride. We'll check in. We'll show you the good, the bad, the ugly, the boring, the exciting of what it takes to road trip cross country in a Tesla Model Y. Excited to get started. Sometimes the Tesla does this. When we left, it said we needed to go to Mount Pleasant, Iowa, and stop for 5 or 10 minutes because we didn't have enough charge to get to Hannibal, Missouri. But it just switched over. It said, you know, you're doing better than you thought, so let's just take you straight to Hannibal, and it's saying that we can get to Hannibal with 20%, which is great. So instead of another hour, we just have another 2 hours and 13 minutes, and you know, we'll monitor things, and if things change, or if the road conditions change, or the weather conditions get worse, or the wind gets worse, and our efficiency drops, then we'll stop in Mount Pleasant. But for now, we're going to make a stop in Hannibal. Okay, well, we're back to Mount Pleasant. Weather conditions changed, or the nav was doing something weird, but it said we could get to Hannibal with 20%, and then it continued to drop and drop and drop, and it got as low as 3%. And now the car is saying, well, you probably should head to Mount Pleasant, so let's go there. So we'll check in at Mount Pleasant. Just pulled into Mount Pleasant, Iowa. That last leg, 88 miles. It was short, but it's kind of a weird spacing, and given the time of year, we just kind of had to stop here, even though we're currently at 51%. We're not going to be here more than 10 minutes. Actually, it's saying 6 minutes. We used 30 kilowatt hours, and we had an average of 343 watt hours per mile, which frankly isn't bad this time of year, being about 45 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're gonna be here for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna get down on the road.
No, you're not.
We're not gonna get down on the road. We're going to hit the road.
No, you're not.
So after we're here about 10 minutes, say 4 minutes now, we're gonna make our way down to our destination for tonight, which is going to be in the St. Louis area, and then tomorrow morning we'll make our way all the way down to where our final destination is for this leg of our vacation, which is Gulf Shores, Alabama. Well, we made it to Hannibal, Missouri, no problem, 21%. Makes me wonder if we actually really needed to stop at Mount Pleasant, but that last leg was 95 miles and 327 watt hours per mile, which is actually pretty decent for this time of year and this car. So we're gonna get plugged in. It says we're gonna be here about 25 minutes. I guess we'll actually see if that's the case. Our next stop is dinner and a hotel and some charging therein. Might have to play around with some things, but we'll check in a little bit. While we sit here in Hannibal, it says we only have 1 minute left to go, and this is technically our last stop for the night because we can make it to our hotel. But when you're traveling in an EV, you need to make sure that you have enough charge to get from your hotel to the next charging stop. And if you turn off Sentry mode and you don't check your app and you're not plugged in, you're not going to lose any of your charge as you sit overnight. However, when you wake up in the morning, your battery is going to be cold. So whatever estimate is telling you when you get there, you're not going to have that much range the next morning. So it's best to actually plug in your next destination or figure out a destination close to your hotel and charge up when you get into town because your battery is warm and it'll accept a charge faster. So that's what we're trying to figure out. And basically, I think what we're going to do, we're going to go get some dinner and then we're going to go to a charger, which is an urban charger. It's only a 72 kilowatt charger, but it's better than nothing before we check into the hotel. We have a little bit of time, and when you have time, this is probably the best way to go. It's going to sit at the hotel because there's no chargers at the hotel, and then we're going to hopefully be able to get out of St. Louis and get a pretty far distance away before we have to charge again. So that's what we're at. Car just told us that we are ready to get down the road, so we're going to go ahead and get unplugged and get down on the road. All right, we made it to our last charging stop for the day in St. Charles, Missouri. We are at an urban charger. It's not ideal, but it's right next to our hotel. Maximum charge rate here is 72 kilowatts. You don't see these things very often, but they're around. That last leg, 99 miles, 294 watt hours per mile, and that's actually pretty darn good for this car. So we're gonna get plugged in. We're gonna be here for a little while because our charge rate is gonna be lower, but we wanna get a little bit of charge here while the battery's warm, and before we let it sit at the hotel overnight, and then in the morning we'll have a cold battery, but we'll have enough to get to our destination. So let's go ahead and get plugged in. We're about done here at the St. Charles Supercharger, and we're just sitting here watching a little Netflix, even though we're charging a little slow. It's just from here to the hotel, but we are up to 82%, and that has changed some things. According to the trip computer, we're now going to be safe, theoretically, assuming it's not too cold in the morning, to drive straight out of town and go all the way to Minor, Missouri, which appears to be about 2.5 hours from here. So we're going to go to the hotel. Doesn't have charging. We're going to turn off Sentry mode. We're going to not check the app, and we should have exactly what we get to the hotel with. So good night for day one, and we'll pick this up bright and early in the morning. Good morning, bright and early, day two. We are sitting at 82%, which is exactly the same percentage it was when we pulled into the parking lot last night, because you turn off Sentry mode, you don't check your app, you're going to be fine. So we got a long day today. It's probably going to be about 12 or 13 hours, including charging. So let's take a look at what we have going on. We are still sitting here in St. Charles, Missouri, which is I guess, connected to St. Louis, and we're going to be headed south. We're going to be headed south down to the Gulf Shores area, and our next stop right now is Minor, Missouri, which it says we're going to arrive there with 16%. Sitting here with a cold battery, so I guess we're going to see, and then we're going to go to Jackson, Tennessee, Mississippi, and then Alabama, and then arrive at Gulf Shores later this evening. That's the current plan, at least according to the nav, but it looks like there's a couple 30-minute charges in there. I might try to tune that up if we can. I don't like to charge that long, and if we get to a tune-up, I'll explain how I do that. But right now, we're just grabbing some breakfast. We're gonna hit the road. Quick check-in from the road. When we left the hotel, I said that we were going to go to, I think, Minor, Missouri, and arrive with 15%. Well, efficiency hasn't been as good, or the nav isn't calculating very well, but about halfway in our journey, maybe a little more than halfway, we're 100 miles in, it has decided that we're now going to get to Minor with 3%, and that's just too close for comfort. So it has a bailout point. It switched us to a supercharger about 30 miles closer to us, which we will arrive with 16%. Now, do I want to push it to 3%? They're both V3 chargers. I got to charge one place or the other. I'm already going to be relatively low on my battery pack, so it probably doesn't matter. So we are going to stop in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and we'll check in when we get there. Okay, we landed in Cape Girardeau. That last leg, 122 miles, 348 watt hours per mile, which is a little higher than what we've been doing. Our total average right now is at 329, and we're at 404 miles. And the nav was doing something really weird on this leg, and the car wasn't cooperating, and I was trying to do everything while driving with FSD, and guess what? I got a strike. Yep, I have an FSD strike. It's my first one. I have 4 left. Hopefully I'll have no more, but this one's on you, Tesla. You were doing weird stuff and you weren't doing the things I wanted you to do. So you should give me that one back, please. Okay. I'm gonna get plugged in, and we're gonna be here for probably about 30 minutes, and then we'll be on our way. All right, we are all charged up. We are up to 91%. It was a pretty deep charge, going north-south. They're a little bit further apart, and it is cold, colder than I would like it to be. Car still wants us to go to the next stop, which is 30 miles down the road, even though if you force it to say, you know, don't add automatic stops and force it to Jacksonville, it says we're going to get there with 19%, which is plenty. So I don't know what's going on with this thing right now, but I'm going to monitor it, and I guess if things go south and the nav is way off, which it can be sometimes, then I guess we'll stop. But for now, we're just going to play it by ear. Something strange is going on, because this car really likes to get to Minor, Missouri. Saying right now that we can get to Jackson with 14%. We're currently at 61%, and I figure we're well past Minor, so I'm forcing it to not fill in all of the charging stops. But when I tell it to go ahead and add the charging stops back, it wants us to turn around, go back to Minor, charge for another 20 some minutes so that we could get down to Jackson and to Jackson, Tennessee. So, which is really weird, because we can still say we're going to get there with 14%. When we left, it was like 16, 17%, so it hasn't changed that much. And 14% is plenty. So I don't know what's going on. Don't know. I'd like to turn on all of the auto routing, but at this point I can't. So maybe I'll try it again in another 10 or 15 minutes and see if it gets any better. A quick check-in on our navigation issue, and we are only about 45 miles, 50 miles from Jackson, Tennessee. And if you tell it to go and route again, it still wants us to go 75 miles back in the other direction. So something is clearly messed up with the nav. So I ended up just completely canceling it out and starting it again. And sure enough, everything is fine now. So just a tip, if the nav is doing something really weird, just cancel it out, start over, and you might have a better result. Well, we made it to Jackson just fine as predicted, and that last leg, 155 miles, 327 watt hours per mile. It's kind of an interesting setup where we've got a whole pack of superchargers that are designed to be plugged in on both sides, but it just looks pretty weird having them so tightly spaced together. But we're gonna get plugged in. We're gonna be here for about 20-30 minutes, and then we'll be on our way. All right, we're all charged up, a little overcharged actually. We're sitting here at 84%. And the reason why we overcharged is because it's lunchtime and there's a Waffle House right next door. And even though they are freaky fast, they are also awesome. And if you're from Iowa, you know that there are no Waffle Houses. So when you get a chance to eat at a Waffle House, you just got to do it. Hey, it's vacation. So we're going to get unplugged and get down on the road. Get down on.
Always with the get down on the road.
So we're going to get unplugged and head on down the road. Our next stop is going to be Tupelo, Mississippi. First time being in Mississippi. Excited to explore that state. See you there. Okay, we landed in Tupelo, Mississippi. That last leg, 106 miles, 317 watt hours per mile, which is a little bit better than our overall average of 327. It's a little bit off the beaten path from the main drag, even though I can see it, but we're at a mall and you kind of have to drive through a lot of traffic and the mall to get here. It's a little bit of a walk if you want to go get something to eat or use the restroom, but I guess this is what you do at this V2. You just kind of, it's about our only choice. So we're going to be here for about the next 25 minutes while we sit here to wait to get to our next stop, which is Meridian, Mississippi, which is about 2 hours and 45 minutes away. So we'll check in a little bit. All right, we're all charged up. Have the stats up here above, but we are sitting at 90%. We have 147 miles to go. It says we're going to get there with 18%. We've been losing about 5%-ish, 6% on the way down per leg, so wanted to have a little extra buffer, but we have enough. Confident of that. We'll get unplugged and let's make our way to our final destination, or at least close to it. Just got to Meridian, Mississippi. That leg, 148 miles, 307 watt hours per mile, arrived with 21%, which is better than what it said we were going to have before we started. So let's go ahead and get plugged in. It says we're going to be here about a half an hour. Well, after sitting here for about 30 minutes-ish, we are now up to the charge rate where we need to be, which is 91%. Yikes, that's pretty deep into the battery pack, longer than I want to go, but it is 150 miles till our hotel, and that isn't even the next supercharger. The next supercharger is, I don't know, 15 minutes beyond that. So we need to make sure we have enough charge not only to get to the next supercharger, but also to calculate how much of a cold battery will influence our range when we wake up in the morning, because it's still supposed to be cool even though we're in southern Alabama. So let's get unplugged and let's get to our next destination. Well, we made it to the end of day 2. We are at our hotel. I'm going to save the stats until we get to the supercharger tomorrow, because we have a little bit longer to go, not much, to make it to the Gulf Shores of Alabama, literally Gulf Shores. So stay tuned. We'll catch up with you in the morning. Good morning from day 3. We are almost done with this leg and this video, almost 1,000 miles on this trip. We have one more supercharger that we have to get to and get charged up before making it to the Gulf Coast. So last night we turned off the car. We were at 23%. This morning, still 23%. We have about 15 minutes to get to the supercharger, and when we get there, we'll check in with all the stats from that last leg. Well, we're at the Robertsdale Supercharger, which is our first Buc-ee's of the trip. This place is an absolute zoo, and honestly, I don't get it. I don't get the appeal. Maybe it's just because I'm from Iowa, but this place is just nuts. But anyway, that last leg, 165 miles, 293 watt hours per mile, which is well below my overall 60,000 mile average. Why was it so much better? Well, it's because we weren't on 4-lane highways. We weren't doing 77 miles an hour the entire time. We were going lower speeds, and going slower gives you better efficiency. So our plan is to get to the Gulf Coast in about an hour, hour and a half, and it's about a 45-minute drive from where we are right now. There isn't really any good charging options where we're going in the Gulf Shores area yet. There's a supercharger under construction, but to my knowledge, it is not open yet. So we're just gonna sit here and get as much charge as we can. We rolled in here with about 15% and give us some tooling around electrons for the next day or so before we hit the next leg of this trip, which will be from where we are right now all the way over into Florida, about a 10-12 hour drive. So that'll be another video. So we'll check in a little bit once we're all charged up. Sat here for about as long as we need to. We're up to 90% and says we're going to get there in about I don't know, 11:30, 11:20, which is our target. So we're going to get unplugged, and the next stop we will check in at our final destination, which will hopefully be overlooking the Gulf Coast. So check in then. Well, we made it to our final destination for this leg. That short journey was only 31 miles and 241 watt hours per mile because we were doing a lot of slow driving. Total trip, 1,010 miles, 319 kilowatt hours consumed, 316 watt hours per mile total. So 1,000 miles from Iowa straight down to Alabama. Sometimes going north-south on the supercharger network can be a little challenging, but it all worked out just fine. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd appreciate you hitting that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscriptions are always welcome. And if you're looking to pick up a Tesla of your own, and I highly recommend it, make sure you use a referral link. Any referral link will do, but if you want to use mine, that would be great. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.